allows for a lot of growth, particularly, say, housing across the city in many places. To some extent, it has a focus around the transport network. As Mayor, how would you attempt to get a greater concentration of growth around those transport modes? I'll start with David, thank you.
So, I don't think you saw the PowerPoint presentation I had up before. The Green Loop Network has been in the Auckland Growth Strategy since 1999. It's in the Auckland Plan as the Rapid Transit Network. The Unitary Plan is actually designed as a transport or transit-oriented development plan without the transit or transport systems in place yet to provide it. So we've done the land use planning first, now we need to do the infrastructure second. You could argue that it would be better done the other way around, and I might agree with you, but this is the way we've done it. So the next step that we take in Auckland's journey, Auckland Plan, Unitary Plan, Rapid Transit Network, and it's a continuity over time about that priority. This is why I'm emphasising it. I don't think we need new ideas and fresh thinking. We really have to say, if this is our priority, we stop spending money on the other stuff, the motorways and the roads, we start spending money on what we've always planned to do, which is to build this rapid transit network that supports the intensification that we're already planning to put in place.
Thanks. Any other takers on Phil? And then Penny and then Mark.
Yeah, it was probably about 12 years ago, Bob Harvey, as the Mayor of Waitakere, did a series of things called charrettes about his vision for how you might develop New Lynn. And what we ended up with was putting the rail line underground at the time that I was in government, a station right by the town centre, and then building the Merchant Quarter. The Merchant Quarter was quite radical as a suburban development, but it's also been quite successful. If you look all around, if you look at the Panmure bus rail interchange, you'll see services that will get you into town in 10 or 12 minutes. And do you see intensive housing around them? No, you see hectares of used car yards. Glen Eden, another example of where you've got the rail line. Those are the areas that are crying out for development. Those are the areas that the council should be pushing. If you look at the CRL line, you'll see that the property values around where the CRL runs have soared, and that's where you'll get intensive development. You'll see if you've got light rail down Dominion Road, a huge intensification around where the rail lines are. So I think the market will work, it will follow where you've got the transport available, but the council needs to be there to push it along. But I think that's the way the city's got to go. I think that the Unitary Plan is right in saying focus on those areas.
Thanks, Bill. Penny.
Like I say, having a quality assurance background, I'm right into planning. In my view, the market model doesn't seem to plan past Friday and doesn't do things in a coordinated way. I discovered to my horror here yesterday that the Unitary Plan did not include the apparent 30,000 empty private sector houses that were identified in 2013 census because it was outside the scope. Well, what sort of dopey scope is that doesn't look at exactly what you have? Again, I believe that if Auckland Transport was brought back under the in-house model, that you would be able to work in far better with the local communities to find out how they think and how they would use genuine public transport in order to work in with the transport nodes. And yeah, so that's the key. Focus on the spending, focus on putting locals and local communities first instead of the New Zealand Property Council, commercial property developers, speculators, bankers, land bankers and money launderers. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mark.
So at the heart of the Unitary Plan, we have 10 metro centres. So that's from Albany in the north, Westgate in the west, Pukekohe in the south. Those really are the transport hubs, and they either have good transport infrastructure today, or the plan is that they will. And the disconnect, I think, with your question, Rob, is that obviously Botany, which is one of those metro centres, no one would say that that has good infrastructure. So the issue is not that the plan's wrong, it's just that we now focus on the transport and infrastructure planning. And look, it's also true to say that, you know, there were pitched battles behind the scenes as we were putting the Unitary Plan together with both water care and transport in terms of different views of the world about where that growth would go. That's not all resolved, actually, because the Unitary Plan is not a silver bullet. But the best case for your new mayor is to kind of come with a working knowledge of these issues and to understand that the priorities around those town centres is where the funding should be driven. And so that's why, progressing Amity, not just to Pakuranga but out to Botany, becomes a priority. Otherwise, Botany will not fulfil its destiny as an effective metro centre. So that's in the plan. You can call them satellite centres if you want. We've got metros at the heart. Transport is at the foundation. It's the funding plan to get the infrastructure there, both transport, water and other facilities, frankly, that you'll need the next mayor to focus on.
Thanks very much, Lee. Mark, Carol.
So how do you ensure that there is intensification surrounding where we've planned for intensification, where the transport is going to be? Well, first and foremost, you make sure that that transport actually gets in there and it gets in there in a timely and efficient manner. Secondly, you get rid of the land bankers and the speculators, those people who are holding land for car parks, and in my mind, this is my decent rhetoric, are holding our communities to ransom, because their land value is going up with the investment that we're making as taxpayers and ratepayers in that transport and that public transport and the parks that we're putting in, and the community investment that we see in community entrepreneurship and new businesses popping up in the area. So that's where my reform of rates policy will come into it. I propose that we move from the capital value system that we currently have to one of land value, which will see a rebalancing out of rates, taxing more the people who are holding their land vacant, because obviously you get rid of that improvement portion of the capital value. So it's essentially just ensuring that people are using their land efficiently. We'll actually see that building happen, that intensification surrounding our transport nodes. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Congratulations.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of my main policies. If you remember 3 years ago, I talked about building Manukau as a satellite city. And since then now, the unitary plan sees that we need to do that. But it's not just about intensifying those nodes, because you can put 30,000 people there, unless you create business there, all you're doing is creating more traffic. 12% of the working force works in the city. So to put 1,000 people in any node, only 12% are going to the city. So what we need to do while we're building those nodes like Albany and Henderson and Manukau, we need to create work as well. We need to actually have a plan where we're moving residential properties into that area at the same time we're building commercial properties so that we can create work. One of the issues would be, how do we get business to move there? I have a plan for that as well. But we know that the residential properties will sell. That's not a problem. It's how we get the business to move there as well. But we need to focus on it. We need to do that. By putting 9,000 people in Hobsonville didn't create a town center. Everybody is in their car coming down from Hobsonville. We need to actually plan that to be 30, 40,000 people, because you need that in order to create economic growth. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed.